Seeing a few of you. Can you hear me? All right. If anyone can hear me, let's just take a few minutes, make sure people are coming in. If you're able to turn on your video, you can do that. You don't have to, though. If you would like to speak or ask a question at any point, make sure that your audio is on, but you can mute it as well so you're not talking the whole time. There's a chat feature down there too. I guess Makila and Dom found that. So you can chat in that box as well. All right. This is what we can do. We're still waiting on a few more. It looks like I have to admit people when they come in. If you can unmute your microphone and would like to ask a question or talk, you can do that. If not, you can chat in the chat box, which some of you are doing. So if you have any questions, you can ask them there as well. I just want to basically take some time. We only have about 40 minutes. And we may not need to take the full 40 minutes, but I want to just make sure everybody is doing okay, make sure everybody is aware of what's due and when it's due. And I might go over just a couple quick things about sources as well, just to kind of make sure everybody's on the same page. All right. So we'll wait. We have about 14 now. Let's wait another minute or two just to make sure everybody's here. All right. So I don't know who all is going to join, but I do want to go ahead and start if anyone can hear me. If anyone can hear me, does anybody have any questions to get us started first? You can either type them into the chat box or you can ask them here. All right. It looks like...
How often will we be doing this?
So my goal for this really is just, I want to do it this week and next week. So next Wednesday as well, just to check in and make sure everybody's on the same page and doing okay with the transition, but we don't have to do it after that. If people find that it's helpful, we can still do it for those that want. But because I teach online already, everything that I do is asynchronous. So I would rather just have everybody be able to work on their own time at their own pace. I know it's kind of crazy. I don't know who's working. Like I know Dom, for instance, has been working nonstop the last couple of weeks. So I know that his schedule has been pretty crazy. So if any of you find yourself in a job that is requiring you to go to work because you're an essential employee, I don't want to hold you to a specific time period. Any other questions? So if you're just joining us, you can ask a question by unmuting your microphone or asking it in the chat box that you have. All right. Sarah says a lot of links are not working on D2L. Can you be more specific about a lot of links? Which ones?
The upcoming week, I'm wondering if she's talking about that. The upcoming week, all of it except for the main video on the page is locked or like is zoned out. I didn't know if that was intentional or not.
Okay. Like the weekly folders?
Whoa.
Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Um,
I thought
and
my screen just crashed.
okay, no. So
Yeah, so like week I think it's week 12 or 11.
yeah, okay. Those aren't going to start until um the this day. So like, I actually have to change this. Um, so I have it set to start. Should start on Sunday.
Okay, so we don't need to worry about the annotated bibliography quite yet, just like the
Now,
basic courses.
yeah, because so I'm in week 11 now, and like this. So like this first discussion and then the writing log is just a way to kind of get you thinking about the topic.
Okay.
Um, but just know that your annotated bibliography is due next week. So I can, oh, I see what you're
Wait,
saying.
when is it due next week?
April 5th. Okay. So you want access to the materials.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I
how,
don't know if that's what Sarah was talking about or not, but I'm assuming that's
okay. So I went ahead and opened it up for week 12. So that way everybody has access to this stuff. Let me, I gotta find my chat box here.
but you don't want it turned in until like starting next week.
Right.
Okay. But we can get like a head start if we think we know what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of you, some of you have me for 101, so you kind of know my expectations.
Yeah,
Um,
I think I got it.
okay. So Sarah said the scholarship PowerPoint doesn't work. I think if you, let me see. I had another student talk about this. I think it works now. It just opens as an external link. So Sarah, if you can hear me, go ahead and try it now. I had some problems with embedding material. So if anything was embedded, it just wasn't showing up. So I made it external. So it might ask you to open in a new window, but I think it works now. And it's just like a Prezi.
Do you have up a new syllabus yet?
Um, for what do you
Or
mean?
like we got at the beginning that told us each week what's due and all. Are you putting one up or just are we just going off the weeks?
Probably just going to go off the weeks
Okay.
for now. So the way that's a good question. So typically the way that online learning works is okay. Awesome. So the link works. Typically the way that online learning works is you have I have my students work from week to week. So keep in mind that you'll have larger essays due at different in different weeks. So like our annotated bibliography is due next week, and then the research papers due 2 weeks after that. I think on the 19th of April. Um, so really, you should be working on those papers, and then from week to week, there might be instructional material to help you and assignments that kind of help build towards that larger assignment too. So typically, I just have students work from week to week, which is why some of the later weeks don't open yet. Um, but you can at least go in and look at them. Like if I go, so I'm in student view right now. Um, so like week 13, for instance, you can't click on anything. It's closed for right now, but you can at least go in there, Stephanie, and just see like what's due. Um, so there's like a writing log due in week 13, and then a peer review due that's um, due that week, and then week 14 you can see it's just the essay.
So are we able to send you our drafts still, or like how are we doing like edits and stuff like that?
Yeah. So couple things I'll say about that are I need to add a date to that. There will be I guess what will be discussion boards for peer review. So let me show you the one real quick. Sorry, I just want to set this up. So in week 13, you'll have a draft due, and it's this discussion peer review. So like you'll upload your draft there, and then students like, how do I want to explain this? Students will respond. So there's instructions here on how to respond to your classmates, which classmates to respond to. And then I have some guided questions here that everyone should answer for each student. But then if you want me to look at a draft individually, you'll just have to let me know. I typically, for 102, and especially later in the semester, I don't look at as many drafts like I do earlier in the semester. And so if you want me to look at a draft, just let me know and I can do that for you. But I'm not going to go through all the drafts like I normally would, since we're getting closer to the end of the semester here.
And when did you say that draft thing was? It's not this Friday, is it?
No, it's due week 13. So I think
It's week 11 right now, right?
yes. Yeah, so we're in week 11. If you go to week 13, there's this discussion, and it's due the Sunday of week 13. So I guess April 12th is when your draft's due.
And is that for the bibliography or the research essay?
That's for the research essay. So
Okay.
yeah, so week 11 and 12 are annotated bibliography, and then week 13 and 14 are really working more towards your research paper. So if you look at, I'm on the Unit 3 homepage here. So these 2 weeks and your annotated bibliography is due at the end, and then these 2 weeks and your research papers due at the end.
Will we have a final for this class, I'm assuming?
Yeah, so I had to do some rearranging because typically we would have ended this, I think, in week 12, and then ideally we would have ended it in week 12, and then we would have had 13, 14, and 15 to do the final assignment. So our final paper is going to be, it's going to be a creative piece, and you're only really going to get like a week and a half to do it. But I kind of just slap grades on those final papers, and it's going to be more, you'll have a lot of freedom of what you can do. So it's kind of like a thematic based composition. You just pick a topic, an idea that you want to write about, and write some kind of creative piece. So some people do poetry, some people do short stories, some people do letters or nonfiction, some people write obituaries about themselves. But it'll just be like a fun, short, creative assignment that'll be about 2 or 3 pages max. So.
Okay.
All right.
Do you prefer us to contact you through email or through, like, if we have the texting thing, do you prefer us to do it that way, which is easier?
That is a great question. I really prefer Remind if you have it. My inbox has exploded because that's how everyone, all of my colleagues are communicating with each other. So I'm getting like 50 emails a day just being updated on stuff and being attached to stuff. So if any of you have emailed me and I have not responded yet, I apologize. My inbox is a nightmare, and I've been trying to keep up with it. It's just a little confusing. So I would definitely prefer Remind. But if you have larger concerns or you need to attach items, you can email me and just let me know. I got Glenn. He says, do we still have the LSC as a resource if we submit a paper there to review? So Glenn, that's a great question too. The LSC has set up virtual, like a virtual campus, and I can send you the link to that after this conference. I'm gonna make a note of that real quick, actually. So you'll be able to send drafts in. I think they might do like Zoom conferences too. I don't know. I can say this. I really don't know if campus is going to open back up at all for the rest of the semester. I know that there are plans for students that don't have home internet. They're working with Antietam Cable right now to get students free internet for 60 days if they like meet the requirements, and then $15 a month after that for 6 months. And then there's also a plan for students that can't get internet. They're going to open up, or if they don't have a computer at home, they're going to open up the LSC and computer labs to individual students. I think, don't quote me on that. That was the plan a little bit ago. But I haven't heard any more news about that. So the LSC will be open, at least virtually for now. It may open back up on a case-by-case basis for students that need to use the computers. Callie asked if the due dates have changed. They have changed technically, so I wouldn't really go by our class schedule anymore. That kind of ties into what Stephanie had asked. I basically pushed a bunch of stuff back, and I kind of got rid of a few items as well. So I don't have a whole lot of homework assignments for you to complete over the next few weeks. It's really just about getting these next 2 papers in. This is our big research unit, and you kind of get your own topic. You can write about anything as long as it's not those topics that I pointed out before the break. I got Dominic's question here. I know you said that you're going to accept papers to critique, but you said not as many. When's a good time to send them to you, just so I get that extra help? Honestly, I'll take papers up until the Friday before they're due. So really, as long as it's not 2 days before the papers due, I can accept them at any time and look at them. Just know that I'll get them back as soon as possible. Nothing has changed on my end. Like I'm working from home full time, so the only difference is going to be maybe like the hours that I work. I'm working kind of a little later in the day, so I'm not going to be up as early as I normally would be to get into the office. But I'm going to try to keep on that sort of 24, 48 hour schedule. So if you give me a draft, I can get it back to you in a day or two. Callie, the due dates are updated on D2L. They're just in the content area. So if you can see my screen, these are the weekly dates. Everything is due pretty much by the end of each week, but there might be, like if it's a discussion board, there might be something due first in the middle of the week. So you just have to go to that week and check. So for instance, in week 11, you have this discussion. Your post is due Friday and the responses are due Sunday, but the writing log is due Sunday. And then next week, your annotated bibliography is due on that Sunday, and you have a writing log due on Sunday. So my best advice for anybody that has not done online learning ever, just make sure that you're logging in early in the week. So like Monday, I would just log in, take a note of what you have to complete, figure out what time you can allot that week, note the due dates for the week, and just make sure that you're kind of taking notes on what's due that week. When do you need to do it? A lot of times students, if something's due on Friday, they'll do that assignment on Friday. You don't have to do it on Friday. You could do the assignment on Wednesday if that's just the time that you have to work on it. But as long as you're completing the assignments by the end of each week, you'll be fine.
Can I ask you a specific question about the essay?
Yes.
It says 3 academic sources, 2 popular media, and 1 primary.
Yeah.
For the popular media, is that basically just anything you find on the internet, or is there something specific for popular media source?
The simple answer to that would be yes. Anything you find on the internet is pretty much popular. I'm going to go ahead, since you asked that, I do want to show you just a couple quick graphics. Can anyone see this chart that I just pulled up?
Yeah.
Okay. So one, make sure that you look through the sources materials. I have a couple of PowerPoints in there about sources and what's the difference between a popular source and a scholarly source. The easiest thing to think about is this. If it's not a scholarly source, it's a popular source. Popular just means really who the audience is, and that typically means it's a wide-ranging, broad audience. It's easy to access. It's usually free or at least very cheap to access the information. You can access it through the internet. You can access it through bookstores and magazine racks, grocery stores. Most of the sources that you're going to interact with are popular media sources. All your news sources are popular media sources. Blogs, opinion, tabloids, fake news, that's all popular media. News and reference are popular. Government sources, so if it has like a .gov handle on the internet, that's a government source. That's still popular, though it's a little bit more credible than an opinion piece. If it's an academic source, so it's a .edu, that's more credible, but it's not scholarly, it's still popular. And then you have scholarly sources, which I will show you in just a second. Give me 1 minute because my dog is, just so everyone can see, my dog is here. Hi. I'll be right back. I gotta get him out of the room. Come on. Hey, can you call him? All right, sorry. He doesn't know what to do because we're home all the time. So it's playtime 24/7 in this house. All right. So you can see my screen again. Good. Okay. So a scholarly source, it has to come from typically an academic database. It has to be listed as such. So I'm going to show you. Let's give you an example of one. So I'm an EBSCO if you go through a library database like this, you'll notice that a lot of them have something like periodical. So periodical is just a news source. That's a popular source. Scholarly sources will be listed as academic journal. So if you go into the database, you can refine this and just click scholarly journals. And then you can kind of narrow it down from there. But the only thing that are technically scholarly sources are these academic journals. And I'll just show you what one looks like. For those of you that don't know. So here's one. it's just basically data. They have a methodology. This is a research paper. Here's some raw data numbers, right? So there's no ads here. This is all data. This is these are all the references and sources. Usually have a long source list, and they're typically housed in journals. The biggest difference to keep in mind for scholarly sources is that they are usually published at academic institutions. So four-year universities publish them, or research universities publish them. You will not find them on .coms. If you're on a website that has a .com, it's not a scholarly source. Even if it looks scholarly or academic, it's still popular if it's coming from a .com. You have to access scholarly sources through the academic databases. So please just make sure that you're looking for them there. You can use Google Scholar too. I've had some luck with that in the past, but I don't always recommend it, only because it's still a fairly new service. They have some good books and articles there. I just don't know how useful it's going to be for you. Some students use it and it works really well, and other students can't find anything on it. So
And this syllabus says 3 academic sources, so you're like interchangeable, like if scholarly or academic, either works.
yes. So the reason I used to have scholarly on there, and the reason is because you're going to find that we don't have a lot of access to scholarly databases, scholarly journals, I mean, through the databases, because you have to pay for them. So depending on the topic, you might not be able to find any actual scholarly sources. If you can find academic sources through academic websites, or even if they are .com sources, but they're academic in nature, like maybe they're published by a university or they're published by some corporation that's doing a scientific study, that can still be considered academic. So Dominic, this chart is not on D2L yet, but I'm going to put it on there. I usually draw this on the board. So I'm still working on it. I'm going to post it. Someone asked me to zoom in. So I'm going to post it soon once I'm finished. And Michaela, thank you. My dog loves all of you, even though he hasn't met you. Kevin says, before spring break, you mentioned certain topics to avoid for the essay. Would you mind repeating them? Yes, thank you. So basically 5 topics. You cannot write about, just to be clear, marriage equality, gun control, abortion, cannabis legalization, and any religious topic or topic that has to use religious scripture as evidence. I would honestly probably just stay away from political topics that are overly political. Although if you want to take the moment for what it is and write about pandemics, that's appropriate too. The thing I'm really concerned about is the following. When students pick a topic for research, often they pick a topic that they feel very strongly about, and that's not what I want you to do. I really want you to pick a topic that you're curious about and you don't know a lot about or have an opinion on. Or if you do have an opinion, you're really willing to change that opinion if necessary. The idea is that when students have an opinion in mind and they're really sort of fervent about something, that really comes out in their tone in the paper. They usually talk down to the reader. They're very angry or just overly excited, and they're not really presenting information in the way that they should be. So I would just make sure that you're picking a topic that you're interested in. Oh, thanks, Zoom. Zoom just told me we removed the 40-minute time limit on my group meeting. So we have a few more minutes if we need it. I'd pick something that you're genuinely curious about and don't know much about. Brooke asks for the link for the LSC. Yes, I'm going to do that soon. I think the link is in my email. I just don't want to pull my email up right now because I have it on screen share. And I have to find it, like I said.
You used to have on here one primary resource. Does that mean the resource you're basing both arguments off of, or like what's the primary resource for this? Because the last one was kind of simple. It was your artifact that you're going off of.
Right. So primary source, and that's in that sources PowerPoint. A primary source is really just a firsthand account. So it could be something like an interview. An interview counts as a primary source. So I'm trying to go back to D2L here. Okay. For anyone that's curious, this is what Stephanie is referring to. These research requirements here. It could be an interview that you conduct. It could be an interview that you find on YouTube or a transcript of an interview. It could be a diary entry, or it could be raw data published by someone. So like if you're doing a health topic, for instance, and you go to the NIH website, the National Institute of Health, they have a lot of data collected on that website. And I'll give you an example. So like this website has assessments for education statistics. If I just going to show you what one looks like, that would be primary. Well, that's not what I wanted. All right. Okay, so like this table, Stephanie, this is just raw numbers. This is technically a primary source. So this is information pertaining to graduation rates by state and demographic. Like let's say I was doing a paper on the graduation rates between different demographics. So like the graduation rate of students of color versus the graduation rate of white students. This might be a primary source because it's just raw data, raw numbers about those graduation rates. It's not an article. Nothing's being analyzed here. So it's a primary source. So primary source is typically, if you go to week 11, this PowerPoint has some examples, some further examples for you too. So a lot of the sources that you interact with are secondary because they're analyzing other information. All your scholarly sources are going to be secondary sources. Most news is secondary sources or secondary sources. If it's like a work of art, if anyone's doing like a critical analysis of artwork, any kind of art, so like a novel, a play, a painting, these are primary sources. Laws signed in by government are primary sources. So for instance, if if it loads. All right, well. Okay, so that's not going to load. Sorry about that. But like elaws.us, that's a site where you can find laws written into Congress. Those would be primary as well. So it can really be anything that's up to you. The goal here is just that you're finding a variety of sources. They might not always be the best or the most relevant. So you just have to pick and choose which ones are going to be useful for your paper. All right. Glenn asked, I could do an essay on wages of men and women. Yes, that would be fine.
The 4 sources we are using for the bibliography are also counted towards the 7 sources in our research essay, right? We don't need new ones.
Yes, great question. So sometimes this confuses students. The sources that you're compiling for the annotated bibliography absolutely can be used for your research paper. You don't have to use them if you don't want to, or you may find that they're not useful after finding more sources. So don't feel like you're stuck in using them, but you should know that you're allowed to use them for the research paper.
And as far as academic and scholarly resources, do we have to use like at least 1 academic and 2 scholarly, or is it just overall academic and scholarly, you need 3 overall?
3 overall, because like I said, some students are going to find it really easy to find scholarly sources. Other students will not. For instance, our school does not subscribe to any sociological journals. So if you're doing something sociological in nature, it's going to be really difficult to find scholarly sources in our database. If you're doing reports on something like mental health, which is one of the terms I search for, those are going to be easier to find because we do have journals. We do have access to some psychological journals and medical journals. So it really just depends on the topic. Sometimes students do topics where they don't, like it's really recent. So I've had students do, God, what is a good example for what I'm asking you to do? Like sometimes they've done, so when social media was still kind of young, I had students do social media and there just wasn't any scholarly sources written on them yet because it was still new. There wasn't any kind of data out there or collection out there. Now you can find a lot more, even though there's still not as many as there usually would be. Glenn asks, do you encourage us to run our topic by you before doing the research? If you're unsure, I would ask. Most topics are going to be okay. Because it's 102, I kind of trust people a little bit more in this class. If I see anything that might need tweaking, I'll let you know. But as long as you stick to not writing about the topics that I told you not to write about, you should be fine.
Because this is argumentative, we need a topic that there's different sides to, for and against, or is it more so like it can just be informative, or is it?
Let me pull up. I want to get the assignment prompt up here first because I have my 101 students doing something a little different. So I don't want to tell you the wrong thing just in case. Okay. Yeah, so you should be making an argument, but I don't think the reason I'm looking at this is because for 101, I'm making them follow a very specific outline for writing their paper. I don't require you to do that. However, in week 13, when you start writing your papers, I have 3 outline models that you can follow. I have this classical model, argument back and forth model, and a Rogerian model. So this one's more argumentative. So if you have a very firm stance, or you have something that, it's a little bit more one-sided, like it seems like all the facts are kind of leaning towards this position, then this might be a more appropriate model. But you still need some kind of opposing arguments in there. Maybe you have a topic that there's no clear answer on. Maybe you fall on one side, but it's not an overwhelming amount of data to support your position. You can follow this argument back and forth model, which kind of it's more of a research type paper, like the Is Google Making Us Stupid paper, where they kind of have a position that they take by the end of the paper, but they're offering different reasons for and against this question that they're asking. And then there's the Rogerian model, which is kind of like the argument back and forth, but it's trying to find common ground. So the ultimate goal of this model is really to say, there's merits on both sides. And even though I would like to argue for my position, maybe the best way forward is to find some kind of compromise. So it really is just going to depend on the type of paper that you want to write and the types of sources that you have to write it. The idea that I'm trying to work with 102 is, in 101, you kind of have a more guided research process, and everyone's kind of writing the same type of paper. But in 102, I'm opening that up. So everyone kind of gets to pick their own topic. They can kind of choose their own organization model and do their own thing with it. So I think I said to you earlier in the semester, the beginning of the semester, I'm trying to walk you through things and hold your hand. And then towards the back half of the semester, I'm trying to let go and let you kind of go your own way. So that's the goal here. You're going to have more freedom to choose the type of argument that you want to write. Just know that you should have some kind of opposing argument in there somewhere, so you're not completely making this lopsided argument. All right. Anybody else? Questions? We're at the 40-minute mark, but Zoom told me that we can go beyond 40 minutes. So if we need to take a few more minutes, we can do that. Is there anything anybody wants me to go over?
Are you able, I know it's in this, just to get a general idea of what, I've never written a bibliography before.
Mm-hmm.
What are you, I know there are things, but what exactly are you expecting? What kind of format? Is it a full essay on top of it, or?
So there's a couple things here. If you look at, I'll pull this up separately. It lets me. Okay. In week 12, just so you know, there is this video that will walk you through how to write the annotated bibliography. So there's a video there, there's a detailed explanation, there's a rubric, and a sample. On the assignment sheet, on the annotation explanation, it walks you through the 3 things that you need in an annotation. So think of it like a works cited page, but then you have a paragraph annotation under each citation. And in that annotation, you're going to have an evaluation, a summary, and an analysis of the source. If you want specific numbers for length, I always tell students 6 to 12 sentences, which means 2 to 4 sentences for each part. So 2 to 4 sentences of evaluation, 2 to 4 sentences of summary, 2 to 4 sentences of analysis. And then Stephanie, if you just walk through this page, it tells you kind of different things you should check off for each part. So how to evaluate, describe what type of source is it? Is it popular or scholarly? Is it primary or secondary? Is it academic? Is it government? Is it fake? Um, and then, discuss the relevancy of it, discuss the credentials of the author and the publisher. And then you can move on to summary. And then there's different things that you can write about for summary, and then analysis. So this one I can say is usually the easiest paper to write. You're just doing the same thing 4 or 5 times for each of your sources, but I have detailed explanations throughout those weeks. Anybody else? I got a chat. Will the testing center open for finals? Asking for another class. That is a really good question. I can say that, actually, I might be able to answer that with my email. Maybe I can't. Let me. Okay. The answer I can give for now, Brooke, is I think currently everything is closed, but I do know that our testing center is a very important testing center to the community at large. So there are other companies that actually use the testing center. I would say it really is going to depend on the Maryland government. So right now, because everything is essential employees only, I don't know that the testing center falls under that. If in a few weeks they lift that ban on essential employees only, it may open back up. But I'm not entirely sure. I thought there was an email that I got the other day about it, but it looks like it was just kind of vague. It was very much like the whole campus is shutting down, period. So I know there was talk at one point of keeping it open, but since the governor closed down non-essential businesses, I don't think it falls under that for now. They are using the Respondus lockdown browser for a lot of classes, so you'll probably be able to take your test online somehow if you have an exam. That's the goal for right now. If that changes, I'll try to let you know as best I can. But I would just try to chat with your individual instructor on that, because I don't have any exams for any of my classes, so I never use it. So I'm going to be a very bad person to ask in the coming weeks. But anybody else? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Until next Wednesday, at least. Okay, well, let's say this. We will end in a few minutes. I just want to give you a couple quick things to leave with. Number one, I have all the essays that I had up until yesterday, I have graded. So your cluster analysis papers are back. If you had not yet submitted one yet, I will get to those. But I think there was only a couple people that were having some issues. So I did not apply any late penalties for these papers because of everything that happened. So, and because it took me a little longer than expected to grade them. So no one got any late points deducted whatsoever. let me know if you have any questions about those. We plan on, if you want to talk about your papers, instead of coming to my office, we can set up a Zoom conference. That's kind of the best thing to do for now. Other than that, I want to do this conference with the class one more time at least next Wednesday, and it doesn't have to be as long if we don't want it to be. I just want to check in and make sure everybody's on the same page. My best advice, like I said, especially if you've not done any kind of online learning, is log into your classes like on Sunday or Monday each week. Take note of what's due, write it down if you have to, put it in your calendar, but just move through the weeks. So we're currently in week 11. You have something due on Friday and everything else is due by Sunday. Next week, I think everything is due by Sunday. So you have all week long to work on this stuff. You can reach out to me through Remind. Please feel free to request a Zoom conference or anything if you're struggling or you need help or want some extra instruction. That's what I'm here for. The courses are set up exactly like my other online courses. So the experience that you're getting is just like the experience that my online students have. The only difference is that they have had 10 weeks to get used to it. So it is going to take some getting used to. I'm sure that many of you have completely different looking online courses because we had to throw all this together in a really short amount of time. So seriously, if you're confused or something's not working or you just don't know what to do, please let me know. I know some of you have already told me about links breaking. That's very common on D2L. So I'm still trying to maintain the site as best I can and get all the links working. But I think the majority of stuff is good to go. But please let me know through Remind if something's not working or if you are confused. If there are any last minute questions, please ask them now. Okay, so this is recording. I can post this somehow. I'll try to post this to D2L. I'm going to post the LSC link. I'm going to post the chart that I made that you saw earlier, and I'll post this video to D2L as well. Also know, real quick, just in case I didn't say this, for anyone that needs help with the database tutorials on the Unit 3 homepage, I've added this link to our library. They have tutorial videos and you can go watch them there. There's tutorials for different databases. So here's CQ Researcher. That's one that you can use. Academic Search Premier is one that you can use. So there's tons of tutorial videos up there for you as well. And that is found on this Unit 3 homepage right here. And that's probably where I'll add the LSC link too. So just keep an eye out for that. I'll probably put that there for you all to access. All right. Doesn't look like anybody asked any more questions in the chat. So if nothing else, that's it for us. Same time next Wednesday, and then probably not after that. So good luck. Don't go stir crazy. If nothing else, I'm going to end the meeting. So see y'all later. Nice to see the faces that I could see. For those of you that were too scared, maybe next time. See you, Glenn. See you, everybody.